Ivor Gurney, poet, lyricist, and composer, was born August 28, 1890, to a family filled with emotional turmoil. Growing up, Ivor clashed with his mother especially, and searched for avenues outside the home to escape. It was because of the encouragement of Ivor's godfather, Alfred Cheeseman, who was the curate at the All Saints Church in town, that Gurney tried out and was accepted for the cathedral choir when he was 10. All choir boys were urged to learn an instrument, and through the encouragement and discipline given by his friends Margaret and Emily Hunt, his godfather, and even his mother, Gurney learned to play the piano and even began composing music in 1904. His close childhood friendships would grow to be very important to him throughout the rest of his life, especially those of Frederick William Harvey and Herbert Howells. They roamed the countryside of their much-loved Gloucester together. Gurney loved to sail on his boat Dorothy, the River Severn, and the Gloucester countryside, which would all become major themes in his poetry and music through the years. In 1911, Gurney won a scholarship to attend the Royal College of Music. There he met who would become his most loyal and supportive friend, Marion Scott. Ivor's composition teacher was Sir Charles Villiers Stanford. Stanford did not tolerate laziness or unorganized work, and therefore clashed with Ivor on many occasions. Stanford was recorded as commenting that Gurney had the most potential of all of his pupils, which is a great feat considering that his list included Vaughan Williams, Gustav Holst, Herbert Howells, and many more. It was in the spring 1913, when Ivor was 22 years old, that his first nervous breakdown was recorded while he was attending the Royal College of Music. His behavior became erratic, and he showed alarming mental confusion. Pamela Blevins, a biographer of Ivor Gurney, writes, "There was little understanding of bipolar illness in the early years of the 20th century, when it was often confused with schizophrenia. There was evidence of his manic episodes even in his teen years. It did not take long for his mood to pass and for Ivor to throw himself into his work again." Britain declared war on Germany August 4, 1915. Gurney tried to volunteer on August 8th and was turned away due to his poor eyesight. But after standards became more lenient in 1915, Gurney volunteered again and was accepted. During the war, Ivor wrote poetry and composed music while in the trenches. One such piece, called In Flanders, became a reunion of three friends in song. The poem was written by his friend Will Harvey before he became a prisoner of war in August of 1916. It was put to music by Gurney while in the trenches and sent to his friend Marion Scott in January 1917. It was then arranged by Herbert Howells. In the letter to Marion Scott sent from France while he was at the front, he included In Flanders. He questioned whether or not it was immature or old-fashioned. The words to the song have a simple, almost childlike quality to it, and the music he composed with it makes the listener feel the yearning for home the boys in the trenches must have felt, especially Gurney, who loved his home so much.
I'm homesick for my hills again, my hills again. To see above the Severn plain, unscabbarded against the sky, the blue high blade of Cotswold lie. The giant clouds go royally by jagged Malvern with a train of shadows. was low, like a huge imprisoning oak. I hear a heart that's sound and high. I hear the heart within me cry, I'm homesick for my hills again, my hills again. Cotswold or Malvern sun or rain. My hills again.
Ivor Gurney was shot in the shoulder, wounded on Good Friday, 1917, the same weekend that the United States declared war on Germany. Stretcher bearers bandaged him up, and he was sent the next day to the hospital at Rouen. During his recovery, he went through another period of depression, and he wrote Marion that he had been wounded, but not badly, perhaps not badly enough. It was through his letters to Marion Scott and friends that Gurney stayed connected to home. Marion Scott sent him care packages and current reviews and poems from other artists, and was a constant source of ideas and a steadfast support. He became more and more dependent on her. He sent his work to her, and she worked on getting Ivor's first book of poems published. Ivor was back with his battalion by mid-May. He became a machine gunner and reported to Marion that he was hit twice by shrapnel. He had mentioned wishing for a blighty that would take him out of the war permanently and give him a large pension. That blighty came in September 1917 when Gurney experienced a gas attack. Days later he wrote that his throat was still sore from the gas, but that he only had a cough. Even though he stated that his exposure was mild and in no worse than a bad cold, his condition worsened. By the end of September, Gurney was sent to Edinburgh War Hospital, where he fell in love with a VAD nurse named Anne Drummond. Although he had to be separated from her when he was discharged from the hospital, they kept in contact for months, and apparently in one visit to her they became engaged, although Marion Scott was never made aware of this. Gurney continued to have health problems and was in and out of several more hospitals. It was during this time that his first book of poems, Severn and Some, was published. By March 1918, Annie Drummond broke off her engagement to Gurney. The 20th of June, 1918, Marion received Gurney's first suicide note. Marion rushed to his side. Pamela Blevins puts his trials into words. He had 3 years in the army, including 16 harrowing months at the front, where he was shot and gassed, a failed romance, a nervous breakdown, a suicide threat, extended hospitalizations, and an erratic recovery period after his army discharge. At one point, he seemed to be drawing the pieces of his life together. This post-war period of productivity for Gurney lasted until the middle of 1921, when he again started exhibiting signs of manic episode. After much turmoil between friends and Gurney's family, he was incarcerated in 1922. Ivor Gurney's second volume of poetry, War's Embers, dedicated to Marion Scott, was published in May 1919, but was not as well received as Severn and Some. The dedication read,
To MMS, oh, if my wishes were my power, you should be praised as were most fit, whose kindness cannot help but flower. But since the fates have ordered it otherwise, then ere the hour of darkness deaden all my wit, I write how all my art was poor, my mind too thought-packed to acquit, my debt, and only thanks once more.
Ivor continued writing poetry in the mental hospital. Visitors like Helen Thomas described the hospital to be like a prison. Although he continued to deteriorate, he continued writing songs until 1926, and in 1929 he wrote his last coherent poems, the last possibly being The Wind. Ivor Gurney died of pulmonary tuberculosis on December 26, 1937. In this last known photograph taken by Marion Scott on one of her many outings with Gurney from the asylum, Gurney is standing at the edge of the water gazing across the channel to France. In his song Severn Meadows, written during the war, Gurney captures a moment of reflection and desire that perhaps best captures this moment.
Only the wanderer knows England's graces, or can anew see clear familiar faces, and who loves joy as he that dwells in shadow